Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all so much for coming, and especially welcome to the Arellanes family and friends. I know which we have lots of here. And so, this is a project that we know is so important for so many reasons, especially for family reasons. And to honor Dre, as I saw, was the nickname back then.
Right.
And so we're going to do that, but I just want to begin by welcoming everyone to this facility. And we're grateful to have the opportunity to share some family stories today. So I'm going to get into some of the specifics, but I just want to also acknowledge off the top, we have some folks who really made this happen in terms of mechanically getting the plaques up and things like this. A lot of them are here, so I do just want to highlight Jess Martinez, and he has some staff here from the YFS team. And of course, and it's been wonderful because they've gotten to know Andres' story through this process. And not that anyone cares, but there are two departments that take care of this facility. So there's also the Parks and Rec team. Let's give them a round of applause. And I saw our City Councilor Joaquin Baca is also here. Thanks so much, Councilor. So I think what I want to do is I'm just going to give a brief intro, and then we're going to officially do some dedicating. We know that a lot of you got to look at the plaques, especially this one yesterday, and so we're not going to do an unveiling because they're already unveiled, and of course there's one over by the bridge as well. But I want to, begin with a couple of things. First, I just want to acknowledge to the family. I've gotten to know Ralph especially, but also his daughter and some other folks now almost 20 years, which, for some of us, that's nothing. Like 20 years, we've hardly known each other, But for us, actually, we've been through a lot together, whether it's primarily working with the Hispano Roundtable and fighting for the issues that the Roundtable represents, but also over time getting to know each other personally. And that's when I also heard about the story of Andres when I was running for mayor. Because believe it or not, out of, I think just very professionalism, which I know has to be hard as a father, Ralph never brought up Andres' story to me when I was a state legislator and we were working on all things with respect to honoring our Hispanic heritage and trying to do what we can for our immigrants and making sure and telling the story of our veterans. We were working together. We didn't really get to know each other. And I'll never forget, though, when that changed. When we went to Starbucks, I happened to be a Starbucks on Broadway in Lomas. I don't even know why I remember this. And Ralph told me about Andres and about his story and about what happened to him. And of course, he talked to me about our police department and what our police department had done and concerns about the family at the time of even what was happening with respect to certain officers and some things that were happening on the street and at the house and with the lights and all of these things.
Right.
And for me, number one, it was a reminder to me of how important we can be in each other's lives. And I remember thinking back then that I was like, this is something that we have to try and talk about, to honor, to be transparent about, and to do something about. And I'm not here to go on and on about police reform, and I'm not going to, but I want to mention that was one, Ralph's story and Andres' story was one reason I never gave up on the consent decree process. And it doesn't matter if that was super effective or not. Again, I'm just letting you know that there were many a time when we could have given up on that process. And also sharing Andres' story with our APD leadership, the current leadership, very much respected and understood what had happened. And they stood with us to make sure that we try and make sure as best we can. You can't ever be perfect or make guarantees, but it's best that we can that something like that won't happen again. And also if it does, that people are held accountable. And so that is a core part of the legacy that in many ways, Andres leaves with me and with our police department. And so, Ralph, I just want to thank you for also doing that in a gracious way as a father and giving me a chance to try and be helpful And that, I know that can be hard if you're suffering from that grief. So with that, we want to celebrate the entire life of Andres. And what I'm going to do is typically I will just share some different things, and then we'll hear some speakers, and that's what we're going to do. But I also want to do it in a formal way. And so I'm going to go ahead and read some remarks in just a moment before I hand it off to the family. But before I do that, I also just want to share one last thing about how we got here to this place. A while ago, we started the Stories of Us project. And the idea with the Stories of Us project in the city is that we should tell each other about each other, not just about random locations in the city or facilities that don't, their names or their stories, they don't tell a story. So, you can think of, I don't know, just pick your generically named North Heights Community Center or something like that. Like, that is not telling a story of our community, right? And the idea is that we should use our public spaces in part to tell our stories of each other. And so now we've done this dozens and dozens of times in different ways all over the city, including, of course, the Juan Jose Peña Plaza and some others. And we just try and reflect the stories of community members, people who did something above and beyond for the city. Even we're doing a new one actually in Valley Gardens that is actually just talking about neighbors who grew up there. But the point is, it's not about Valley Gardens, it's about the people in Valley Gardens. And so this is part of the Stories of Us. And the Stories of Us is supposed to reflect also a family and a community. And that's why this park is so important. We've learned, of course, that Andres would play YAFL here, which of course led to a national championship, which is incredible. That's the trophy right there. And that there was a family reunion here back in the 80s. And I understand there's some pictures floating around of the family playing under the bridge that is now named after him. And of course, much of the family still lives in this area. So that's so special too, right? Because part of the Snow Park story is also the Arellanes story. And so that's a tremendous thing that we celebrate today too. Okay, so with that, what I'm going to do is kick things off by issuing an executive order. And so an executive order from the City of Albuquerque. And it basically, it's a little formal, but I think it's important to just reflect on this a little bit. Whereas Andres Arellanes was born on January 8th, 1987, during a powerful snowstorm in Las Vegas, New Mexico, to Ralph and Marcela Marquez Arellanes, and was raised in Albuquerque, where he grew up into a remarkable athlete, competing at local and state national levels in football, fellow quarterback, cross-country wrestling, track and field, triathlon, and demonstrating a lifelong passion for competition and excellence. Andres found great joy also in the natural world and active living, embracing outdoor activities like fishing, hiking, biking, skiing, surfing, and jogging. You'll have to tell me how he was able to surf in New Mexico. Yeah. Must have hit the road for that one. But
San Diego.
There we go. And had a deep appreciation for all genres of music and live concerts, and above all, sports, and experiences that contributed to what he called dream childhood. Such a beautiful term. Whereas professionally, Andres worked in the medical field as a medical sales representative before co-founding Cavalier Medical with his brother, which of course is right down the street, Ralph Arellanes Jr., and growing the company into a national presence across several states. Andres also courageously stood for civil rights and for social justice, and through his own case and others that followed, he was instrumental in prompting the United States Department of Justice and the United Nations to overhaul their own use of force standards and procedures, and of course, I would add the Albuquerque Police Department, especially regarding the use of tasers, thereby saving countless lives nationally and internationally. This work, achieved through years of dedication and resilience and bravery, had a profound, lasting impact on public safety policy and demonstrated Andres' unwavering commitment to creating a more just and humane world for all people. Andres lived a life of love and joy and purpose, surrounded by his family, friends, colleagues, and the animals that he adored, leaving behind a legacy of athletic achievement, professional excellence, fearless advocacy, and an enduring example of kindness, courage, and resilience. That is why now, therefore, today, as mayor of Albuquerque, I proclaim June 25th, 2025 is Andres Arellanes Day. Thank you so much. And that's also a way of introducing our next speaker, of course, his dad, Ralph.
Oh. So, you all know I'm Andres' father. My name is Ralph. Good evening. Thank you all for coming here today to help us celebrate the dedication of Andres Arellanes Pavilion. Thank you, Leja. Put that here. Okay. Okay. The pavilion, the bridge, and hopefully later on this year, the installation of the plaza to include the entire YAFL field. So if you look over there, you see that trash receptacle there and that bench behind it. So that's where Dave Simon and I selected to build a plaza to dedicate the entire YAFL field. So hopefully we'll have that done sometime this year, Mayor. Awesome. So Dave Simon, thank you so much for all that work. And the beautiful thing about this whole design is that it'll be the pavilion and then the YAFL field and then the bridge links it all together. So it'll be a beautiful one piece. I call it the masterpiece, but it'll be beautiful. I want to thank Mayor Keller and his staff, to include Alan Armijo, Constituent Services member, Mayor Keller, Jess Martinez. Where are you, Jess? There's Jess over there of Family Youth Services. You can clap. Yeah, that's good. Dave Simon as Park Services. And just all the whole group. I want to thank city councilors. I think I saw her just walk up. No, Tammy Feeblecorn. Is Tammy here? There she is. We have some seats up front if you want. We have some seats up front. Clarissa Pena, she's been very supportive, very helpful. Councilman Joaquin Baca. Where are you, Joaquin? There you are. Doug Champagne, he's been very supportive. And all the city council and their staff for supporting the efforts of this dedication. Most of all, I want to thank our family and friends who came in, especially those from out of town. Those of you that have always been supportive of Andres. Thank you all very much. It's almost like Arellanes and Marquez reunion here with some Gallegos and all of our other family members. I once gave a speech about how the times shape the people and the people shape the times. And these words certainly hold true for my son, Andres Marcelo Arellanes. And Andres' life would forever change when he was simply walking alone on the sidewalk on 3rd Street in Central. He was attacked by 8 police officers in downtown Albuquerque when he was only 20 years old. And 6 of the officers were from the Albuquerque Police Department, and 2 of them were from the Department of Public Safety. And this was Andres' first experience with law enforcement, with the Metropolitan Detention Center, with the judicial system. It was an incredible injustice brought to him and to our family. And as the mayor said, they were all night long, they would be flashing lights in our house and all this other stuff. And without getting into details about the attack, because it was so violent, I have researched over 100 years of police brutality in our country and abroad. And I can honestly say that Andres experienced and survived probably the most violent case of police brutality ever, where the victim survived. There's been worse cases, but they all died. Andres is the only one that I researched where he actually lived through that, and he lived for 16 more years. Andres survived this attack only by the grace of God, because he was only 20 years old. And, this all happened to him when he was 2007, so, he carried this for a long time on his back, And, he always lived by the saying, it's not whether you get knocked down, it's whether you get back up. And it was his strong heart and competitive spirit and the grace of God that kept him alive. And not only did Andres survive this unbelievable beating, but he was vigorously prosecuted, and he was facing over 10 years in prison, all for just walking alone on the sidewalk. And so in court, the police accused him of attacking and trying to neck choke the horses, the mounted patrol horses. So we proved that they were lying through an internal investigation. They were caught lying. They were fired. And so Andres, we settled his case. And after this, Andres became a very strong advocate against police brutality. Dre's case was the spark that led to the U.S. Department of Justice investigation and monitoring of the Albuquerque Police Department's leadership supervisors, and most importantly, the use of force and taser use of force policies and procedures. It is not lost on my family, and thank you for mentioning that, Mayor, that the U.S. Department of Justice and the Albuquerque Police Department settled their case just last month, also known as the CASA, after more than a decade of monitoring and restructuring their use of force policies and procedures. And I do appreciate that the mayor has been very proactive in a lot of that restructuring and reform of the police. And now, just 1 month later, the city of Albuquerque is honoring Andres with this beautiful dedication. And what a beautiful honor it is for Andres and for our family. You know, his childhood playground. How many people get honored with the childhood playground? And I wanted to mention one more thing. Whenever I look at the playground and Andres playing around here, I think he's the only person I ever knew in my life that when he laughed, he'd kick his leg up. That's like, I always thought that was like in comedy movies or like, he'd laugh and he'd kick his right leg up. And I'm like, he looks like Barney Fife or something like that, one of those comedy movies. I want to thank Mayor Tim Keller for leading to make this a reality, and for always giving a lot of credit to Dre and to our family for these much needed changes at the Albuquerque Police Department. Yet Dre's impact didn't stop there. In 2021, the New Mexico legislature overhauled civil rights and social justice legislation, leading to police use of force legislation regarding police use of force, and signed it into law by Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham. This is one of the largest pieces of legislation in New Mexico history that affects civil rights, social justice, and police use of force across our state. So now he's had an impact in our city. He's had an impact across our state in 2021. And Andres marched against police brutality here in Albuquerque often. He testified in front of the Albuquerque City Council. He testified in front of the Police Oversight Commission, which is now the Albuquerque Police Oversight Agency. He testified in front of the Department of Justice, and he testified in plenty of depositions to fight against all of this injustice. And I used to tell him, Dre, you got to be careful out there. You know how the police are towards you. And he would courageously respond, this is not about me, Dad. This is about the safety of people everywhere. They need to stop hurting people. All of this police brutality and torture must stop. This is much bigger than me, Dad, and I'm not going to stop. He said, I'm not going to stop. And he never did. Then the U.S. Department of Justice overhauled their police use of force policies, procedures, and laws, not just here in Albuquerque, but all across the country, especially with regard to taser use of force. The U.S. Department of Justice told me personally that they did this regarding tasers, specifically because of what happened to Dre and to our family. They told me that Andres' case was the spark that led to the change all across the country regarding Department of Justice. This is why we never hear cases like Andres any longer, because that change has been reinforced over and over, state by state, all across the country, and now it's even gone to the United Nations. This was followed by the United Nations overhauling their use of force for policies, procedures, and practices for the entire world. In 2019, the United Nations overhauled their use of force policies and procedures that affects every nation, every city, every place, every province around the world. And as our dear family friend and our Monsignor Bennett Voorhees of Our Lady of Annunciation Parish once said, Andres is nothing short of a hero. He fought so hard and so long that he created change across our country and all around the world through the United Nations. Thank you, Father. He carried this cross for all of us for 16 years. The entire world is much safer now because of Andres. He was only 36 years old, Father said. He died so young, just like Jesus Christ. The world owes Andres and your family a debt of gratitude. Thank you, Father. How about a happy Father? Another person that helped us out a lot through this reform process was New Mexico State Senator Antonio Mo Maestas. And we were having a conversation after Andres passed away. He said, Ralph, I have to tell you, Andres, he took that beating for all of us. He took those beatings for all of us. We're all indebted to Andres because his face, his body was sacrificed for everybody, And Andres passed on to the spirit world on August the 28th, 2023 from the effects of an enlarged heart. And Andres is a hero and a martyr for all people and for all times. There is no higher honor and act of love than to sacrifice your own well-being, your own health, and ultimately sacrifice your life for the safety and well-being of your fellow man, woman, and all of humanity. One cannot be more heroic than fighting for a tremendous cause and creating much needed change all around the world regarding unconstitutional policing, police brutality, fighting hate, and overhauling police use of force standards and procedures, as well as taser use of force standards and procedures all around the world. Creating this kind of monumental change that has a worldwide impact is by far the highest level of civil rights and social justice a person can ever attain in their lifetime. When you sacrifice your life for this kind of cause, you deserve to be recognized, and I'm very grateful that the mayor recognizes that as well. And this is why Andres carries the incredible distinction of being called a martyr and a hero forever.
Nuevo México, pueblo